Welcome to The Back Cover, the podcast that explores the classic soul music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm Karen Williams. Join me and my co-host Steve Williams, no, we're not related, as we flip over the album covers and share stories of the movers and shakers that created, wrote, and produced those iconic sounds. We'll educate and entertain you, all while keeping the music alive. The back cover is recorded from excerpts of our daily radio show, recorded at WLTH-AM in Gary, Indiana. I hope everybody is doing well during this pandemic time and some of the stressful times in our country. I'm sharing a podcast that Steve and I did. Well, actually, it was part of our radio show that Steve and I did about Stax Records. This is June and it's Black Music Month, and I thought it was absolutely appropriate that we edit this show and put it on for you. It's so much information, I had to divide it up into 2 parts. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy it, and stay tuned. We've got some changes coming we want you to know about, and remember, wear a mask, wash your hands, and social distance.
Well, today we're going to get some Southern down-home, stanky chitlin funk from the sounds of Stax Records.
You want me to do some history? You want me to read about Stax?
Well, you can if you wish. I mean, I could tell you, but I'd rather...
Tell me.
Tell me. I'd rather you read it.
No, you tell me.
No, it sounds better when you read it.
Okay.
All right.
If
Don't take that
so.
serious. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, think about it now. Stax had some artists after the Otis Redding years. Stax went diversified, if you will. And what I mean by that is they went from 2 or 3, 2, maybe 3 different artists. Mm-hmm. And then they went totally berserk because they signed a lot of artists. They signed artists from Detroit. They signed artists from Chicago. Mm-hmm. They signed artists from all over. And the one thing like Motown that kept their sound in-house was their house band.
Right.
Was a band all of its own.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Booker T and the MGs.
Right.
2 white guys, 2 black guys, all together funky. And then they had the Memphis Horns. 1 black guy, 2 white guys. It was just funky. It was funky, but what people didn't understand, Stax took artists from other record companies and recorded them on their label.
What do you mean by took? You mean borrowed or
loan? They were on loan. How
does that work?
Well, here's the thing. Let's take the most familiar person or most familiar artists that were their music was recorded at Stax Records, but they belonged to another record company, i.e. Sam and Dave. Sam and Dave was actually signed by Atlantic Records.
Okay.
Atlantic could never get a hit on them. Their stables of writers couldn't write a hit for them.
Okay.
They were done. But they were what's the guy name? Ahmad Erdogan had them sent down to Stax.
Uh-huh.
And Stax, I would say 2 most famous writers, Dave Porter and Isaac Hayes, started writing for them. Because these 2 people, one was a singer and one was just an artist that knew music, being with Isaac and David. Mm-hmm. So they started writing things kind of like what Ashford and Simpson did for Motown, they did for Stax. When they wrote Hold On, I'm Coming, they were feeling that. You know, that was coming from the heart. Mm-hmm. They got their hit off Sam and Dave, and they say the rest is history.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There was Stax with Otis Redding, and then there was Stax
without.
After Otis Redding. Because after Otis, the company almost went under. If it was not for the beautiful black sister who's still around today, her name is Betty Crutcher. She's the co-writer of Who's Making Love to Yo Old Lady. Why you out making love? See what happened with Stax? They didn't have a library. They didn't have a library at all.
When you say library, explain to people what that is.
Library is music that you've recorded and sold, and it is put up for reselling as well. It's in like right now. Let's take most big companies now are buying up all small labels for their library. Johnny Harrison Taylor from Crawfordsville, Arkansas. And the song that saved Stax Records, I think that hit like 69 because they floated for like a year. And then Betty wrote that because Johnny was preaching and singing with the Soul Stirrers. And then when they fired him.
Why did they fire him from the Soul Stirrers?
He had an accident while he was driving down Lakeshore Drive in Chicago and hit a little girl. Okay. And they found out he was high. Weed.
They had to fire him.
They had to fire him, you know. But they had insurance. They paid off, the lawsuit and everything, or they settled, so to speak. And what you didn't know about a lot of gospel groups back in those days, the big gospel groups, not only did they sing, they had side businesses because the Soul Stirrers owned the cleaners over on 43rd Street. Mm-hmm. That's how they got some of their money to travel and other things, do all those things. Yeah, but what happened? Stax didn't have they didn't have a library. They did not have a catalog, so to speak. All of their stuff basically belonged to Atlantic.
And why was that?
Because Atlantic was footing Sam and Dave and a few under artists.
So when they loan artists out like that, the other record company gets a percentage of the song they sing?
A big percentage.
So then the company that records them, what do they get?
They get a percentage. You get a split. You get a split between record sales and one or either the other company gets publishing.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean? That's the big ticket right there.
Right.
So what saved Stax, Jim Stewart, who was part owner with his sister Stella Axton, was a banker. He knew nothing about music. He was a banker. Stella knew just a little bit. But the guy that they brought in was a DJ from Arkansas, Al Bell, who's still with us today. Al Bell single-handedly saved Stax because he was a great DJ and he was a hell of a promoter.
Okay.
So they turned everything over to Al. Al was in charge of public relations, promotions, everything. So what Al did was, after Otis passed, Al helped to build the catalog. He signed any and everybody. Let me give you a list.
Do you want me to do the history?
Do it, girl.
I told you should do the history, but no.
I'm doing mine from my head.
I know.
But you're doing yours from what's written down.
I'm doing the actual history that was written by Stax.
So you trying to say I'm wrong?
No, that's what I was going to say.
So what you trying to say?
I'm trying to say you should have just done it from the beginning. See, this is what happens when you spend too much time with just one person. Ooh.
The Barcades were the road band for Otis Redding. And only 2 members survived. One was because he couldn't get on the plane, and the other one was because he just didn't go on the trip. He missed that trip. Now, let's go back to the headquarters in Memphis on College and McLemore Street. That is the actual original location. But they tore it down in like the 80s. And people complained so much that they passed a resolution or whatever they had to pass. And the city of Memphis went back to its actual
location
blueprints.
Oh, and rebuilt it from
But what they did was they made it even better because they added A charter school.
Right, the performing arts school.
There you go.
Yeah, so now Stax has a performing arts school attached to it.
And it was 2 old buildings, an old theater. All they did was put up curtains, ripped out the seats, and made recording studios.
Well, that's
yeah, they improvise.
Mm-hmm.
They improvise.
So let me read some more people who are on Stax.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Okay, I said the station. Okay, William Bell, Eddie Floyd, Donald Dunn, Donald Duck
Dunn, the bass player.
Wilson Pickett, David Porter.
Stop. Wilson was not originally on Stax. Wilson recorded there, but his music went to the Atlantic side.
Okay.
On loan.
Okay.
There we go.
Johnny Taylor. The Barkays. The Marquis.
The Marquis, which you just heard.
We already said Albert and Booker T. Al Jackson, Mavis Staples, which was with, of course, the
Staples Singers, right?
The Soul Children,
which was you guys know what was his name? The Soul Children, Taxi, Jay Blackfoot.
Oh, okay.
He was the lead singer. You'll hear some of that today.
Okay.
Mel, did you get to Mel and Tim?
No. Will you let me finish? Little Milton, Shirley Brown, Woman to Woman.
Yep.
The Dramatics, I said. Willie Hall, The Emotions, the Memphis Horns, Jean Knight, pop staples, of course. Southern Avenue, Marvell Thomas, Andrew Love. Some of these may be new people.
Those people were they were like the B part.
Okay.
They weren't major hit.
Mabel John.
Mabel John, the sister of Little Willie John, had one big hit on Stax.
And that was?
You asking me?
Oh, yeah.
Let me think.
Okay, well, you think. But we talked about this person yesterday, Rance Allen.
Rance Allen.
The Rance Allen group.
Here's the thing. Rance Allen and the Staple Singers kind of sort of started
the gospel
contemporary gospel.
Mm-hmm. And Mel and Tim.
And
then a whole bunch of other people that maybe people don't know, but that ran out.
Now what you're going to hear,
the Dixie Nightingales.
And the Dixie Nightingales, the group that discovered David Ruffin. David Ruffin he joined them in Meridian after one show. They took him wherever they went. And when they became the Nightingales, they cut off the Dixie part. They went to R&B. David went to Detroit with his brother. Mabel John, you done lost a good thing.
Okay. That's
you better look out. You done lost a good thing. Lou Rawls re-recorded it too.
Okay.
But people like Lou's better, but I like Mabel's better. Got it?
I got it.
Stax Records. That's what we're talking about today. William Bell, one of his first efforts at Stax Records, became a big hit. Before that, Chicago's own Emotions, or if you were watching Jubilee, they were the Hutchinson Sunbeams. Now, Wanda wrote that song. Ooh. So I Can Love You.
Oh, they had all that bottled up while they were singing the little church songs.
Yes, they did. All of the little sins and things of that nature.
Popped right out of them.
Popped is right. Pray for us, Pastor. That was one of the many, many, many 8-tracks that you had. Albert King, part of the Memphis soul legend Stax Records. Oh my goodness. And he had, he played a Gibson guitar like his brother. But his Gibson was a left-handed flying V because he was left-handed. Gibson kept trying to figure out why is it that he always breaks strings. And they could never figure it out. So, Gibson is based in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't figure out for the life that all the engineers were trying to do test strength on the guitar. as far as the strength of the strings. They never could figure it out. So they asked him to come in. Albert walks in, big old 300-pound man, about 6'2", hair slicked back, smoking his signature pipe. Never went anywhere without that pipe.
Okay.
They asked him, start playing. And he just started wailing and wailing. And about 30 minutes into a wail, one of the strings just gave up. Ping! Then two. Ping! And they was trying to figure, what is it he's doing to break these strings? They found out that this man, in his one left hand, had the PSI pressure in his hand. He could, no matter how loose you made the string, and if you tightened it up, it gave you a different sound. And here's the bad part, or the strange part. Him and his other brother, BB, had the same problem, breaking strings during performances. So they asked Albert, would you not squeeze the strings so hard? you remember the commercial? Don't squeeze the Charmin.
Right.
They couldn't fix it for nothing. Nothing. And they redesigned his string. They would redesign his strings every once in maybe 2 years. The man was notorious for that. But that was not only one of the many blues artists on Stax. Now, the other division, R&B. People were confused because our R&B of those years later turned into what people consider blues. Well, Albert King was a blues artist, but Little Milton was not considered a blues artist. He was just...
And why was that?
Because he sang as well as he played the guitar. And a lot of the songs, the first half hour of his show, he never picked up the guitar. He always just sang. He was a good song. He did more songs on chess without the guitar than he did on Stax with the guitar. And here's the thing.
Was he at Stax first or chess first?
I want to say, I could be wrong. I think he was on Stax first. I think. I'm not for sure. I could be wrong. Then he went to, when Stax went under, I think he then went to chess. But Milton and Johnny Taylor were the best of friends. But they had a problem. They had a singing problem. They would not let each other outdo each other when it came to a song. As a matter of fact, they competed. Milton's got a song called Hello Sundown. Johnny Taylor did a Hello Sundown. Walk in the back streets and cry. Johnny Taylor did a version that never got released. There were other versions of songs that they shared on Stax that they would just battle it out. I mean, battle. Oh, man.
Well, it says here they don't mention chess. They mention Malico, though.
That was the last label he was on.
Oh, that's when they don't mention.
That's when I met him.
They don't mention chess.
They don't mention chess at all.
No.
Well, he was on Chess Records. He was on their subsidiary label called Checker.
Right. Then now they do mention.
They say Checker.
Yeah, they say Checker.
So they wouldn't say chess.
Right.
They would say Checker.
Yeah, he was on Checker
first.
And he was on the What Stax.
He was on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the show that I have on DVD was probably edited down, because I think you would. I don't know if they have a whole concert.
A whole concert on?
Yeah, I don't think they do. I'll tell you what we're gonna do.
What?
What we're gonna do for the cardio 30-minute workout since it's so warm?
What?
We're gonna feature these artists live in concert. They're live in concert ones.
Okay. But you still got to get up and move.
That's up to you.
No, they do. They have to wiggle their arms.
It's going to be a slow movement.
Oh. So instead of the cardio 30-minute workout, you're going to feature the live versions of the artists.
We're going to go to Stax. We're going to go to Watch Stax.
Okay.
We're going to go to Johnny Taylor's show.
Okay.
We're going to go to the Dramatic show.
Ooh. Ooh, I can hear Greta going.
You can
ooh,
oh,
ooh, ooh.
And anybody else that I have live that was on Stax. Oh, Stax Tuesday.
Stax Tuesday.
Oh my goodness. I used to wonder where that phrase came from.
What?
You don't miss your water till your well run dry.
Well,
all them southern phrases, yeah.
A lot of people are feeling that way now.
Okay. I ain't fattening no frogs for no snakes.
Oh, I haven't heard
You ever heard that one?
No.
You've never been south.
And you know this.
You got to go farther than Indianapolis. And now, Celebrity Birthday is brought to you by our friends
at Shiraz Fashions, 7868 Michigan Road in Indianapolis, Indiana. Right. You can reach her on Facebook under Shiraz. That's SHEREZZZ. Fashions and accessories. Class with pizzazz. Yes. Yes. Okay, so today is April 7th. Big birthday today. Miss Billie Holiday. She was born in 1915.
Oh, Lady Day.
Lady Day, yes. We also have Freddie Hubbard. John Oates of Hall & Oates. Did that boy ever sing?
He was background, more or less.
Well, he played guitar.
Yeah. Because I think Daryl
Hall
did all the vocals.
Yeah, he did all the vocals.
He was a funky blue-eyed soul brother.
Yeah, did you ever hear the story of him talking about the Temptations?
Yeah, the Temptations, he was friends with Paul.
Right.
And Paul and them bought the group some uniforms.
Yep, and helped them.
They were the Temp Tones or something like that.
Yeah, and he tells a story where he went backstage. He was able to go backstage, spent time with them, and he's a huge
loved Paul.
Temptations fan.
And as a matter of fact, he brought David and Eddie back to the forefront back in the 80s because they were like out there, doing nothing. So he brought them on their show, and they toured. Yeah, they toured.
Yeah, he's a soul brother with blue eyes.
He truly is.
Yeah, he is.
He is. Oh, yeah. There was a benefit after Dr. King had been assassinated. There was a benefit for the Watts, California area. Now, if you know anything about California and Watts, it was all black, basically. And Al Bell wanted to raise money with Operation Push, which was, Jesse Jackson. So they staged this benefit concert. The benefit concert was called Watts Stax. You can get it now on DVD. I own it.
Of course.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyway, the Stax, I guess you could say the Stax Cavalcade of Stars was, at the time, Rufus Thomas, the now revamped Barkays, Rance Allen, and a few. I could be missing somebody else. The Emotions, Staple
Carla
Singers.
Thomas?
Yeah, Carla wasn't on the show though. Okay. So at that time, Isaac Hayes had become a huge star. Huge.
Was this after Hot Buttered Soul?
During that time.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was huge.
This when he became the Black Moses.
Okay.
Where he had the gold chains.
Yeah.
Vest.
Yeah.
And
dark
glasses, and he had the most. I don't know if you remember the album, but the album, when it opened up into Isaac Hayes in a Jesus-like cross pose, and a lot of people just pinned it on the wall because that's how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a problem. The problem was, although Isaac Hayes was so-called the star of that concert, he closed the show. That was a problem with Johnny Taylor. Johnny figured, hey, wait a minute, man. Since Otis has been gone, I've been pumping records out left and right. Mind you, they were written, some by Isaac, some by Dave, and a few other people. Johnny Taylor sold more records at Stax Records than anybody to this date. And he thought, wait a minute, since I'm the biggest seller, shouldn't I be? See, when you close a show, you supposedly are the star of the show. And the star, the big star, goes last. He doesn't have a time limit. He didn't have anything. He can stay on stage as long as he wants to. So Al Bell couldn't get Johnny to not close the show. Everybody thought Isaac Hayes, even Jesse Jackson stepped in, thought Isaac Hayes should close the show. Johnny said, okay, Pete, that's how it's going to be. All right. Johnny had a show, a concert, 3 blocks down the street at a nightclub that could hold 300 people. So it was more of a, not really a nightclub, but a performance venue. Show sold out. Sold out. Johnny, they taped it on video.
Is it available now on video?
Oh yeah, I got some of the excerpts from it. I'll play some of them. Johnny sold out. You know who was in that show?
Who?
Johnny had his drummer, but it was the Watts 103rd Street Band.
Right.
With Al McKay and Don Meyer.
From
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Johnny had problems with the band because at first they couldn't get their
groove.
They couldn't find their groove.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear him in the record say, hey, I get to straighten out this band. But once they got to pumping, it was all over it. And Johnny made all that money himself.
And he kept it.
Of course, after expenses.
Yeah, after expenses. But, the other thing that was great about Johnny Taylor that you've mentioned before is that his song Disco Lady was the first ever platinum record.
But here's the problem.
What?
Stax didn't get that.
How come?
Because they had been defunct then.
Oh.
He was on Columbia then.
Oh.
Now, what happened? After Stax went under, the Emotions, Johnny Taylor, and a few other people went to Columbia Records.
Mm-hmm. And that's when the Emotions kind of blew up again.
Because they had
Flower.
And they were produced by Maurice White. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, here's another thing. There are certain groups that have been famous on several different labels.
Right.
The Staple Singers were signed before they became the so-called inspirational soul singers.
Mm-hmm.
They were signed to BJ. Made a lot of great hits for BJ. But when they crossed over, so to speak, man, I can remember that like it was yesterday. Chicago was mad as hell at the Staple Singers because they thought they had left gospel.
Mm-hmm.
But they made more money.
Of course.
Made more money.
More listeners.
Well.
Bigger audience.
Here's the thing about being in Memphis. Same thing with Motown using WVON.
Right.
Stax was in Memphis. And what's in Memphis?
WDIA.
50,000 watts of power at night. And they were all over the South. So if you got airplay, which Stax got tons of airplay. Why? One, because the record debuted on DIA before it went anywhere. Just like Barry debuted a lot of records on VON before they went anywhere. And Barry had Motown, had plenty of radio stations, but they didn't have the kick that VON had. And so the
rest is history. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Back Cover. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast, just go to Stitcher or TuneIn. Please join our Facebook page also at The Ride Home from 2 to 5. See you next time.